Good evening, YouTube. Welcome back to a bit of a different episode of Queensland Abandoned Mines. Ebenezer with you as always. First up, Merry Christmas to everybody. Bit of a different episode. We've got a couple of shout outs that we want to do on the page. We've got a bit of a giveaway that we're going to do on the page, which is a first for QAM. But first up, if you're watching this, it's really close to December. You probably noticed with our page, there's a little bit of a different theme to it. We're not really into, smash the like button, make sure you share and giving people data about how many people subscribe. We don't even look into that. So I guess the first update is, yes, the channel is monetized, but 100% of our proceeds is on its way to a Australian bat conservation group. Now, we're meeting up with these guys in February. We don't know if they want to be named. They are non-for-profit. We don't know if they want to be affiliated with the page. If they don't, then we're going to keep them as a silent partner. But every time you watch a QAM video, you can help out with that by watching it from start to finish. But just know that we're not going to be banking a cent from it. So far, the revenue from Queensland Abandoned Mines in its 3 years' existence, and about the last 18 months has been monetised, is around about $500 or $600. All of that will be going to an Australian bat conservation group. We're going to catch up with those guys in February. Hopefully we can film and share a little bit about what they do, but not everyone wants to be associated with people that go around and jumping in holes. And no doubt after we meet with them, there might be some stuff that we refrain from filming in the future. But you can help just by watching our videos from start to finish. You do help by sharing it with a friend or family member, but again, just remember it's not me, it's not any of our crew members that benefit. We're keeping it as a non-for-profit. We've copped a little bit of flack from that because there's a lot going on in the world, and there's obviously a lot of issues with teen anxiety and mental health and homelessness, but we interact with bats, we love bats, we think they're really misunderstood, and we actually refer to them as sky puppies. And we actually want to go down a route where some of our content will be about how you care for any bats that are in distress, so we can cover that off. So we love them. We spent the first 6 months exploring underground, scared of moths. There's this little moths that we always see underground called Spiridonian spanglaus. A couple of people reached out to us and they're actually referred to as grandmother moths. We were scared of those things when we got underground and petrified of bats, but we've grown to love them. So that's the first update for the channel. If QAM was a business, we would be about 10 or 15 grand in the red. It would be the worst business in the history of mankind. So please keep watching our videos. It does help. I will admit that there is a thing called YouTube AdSense, which we need to access. It is really hard. You've got to send off your proof of address and get codes back in the mail, and so truth be told, we haven't accessed 1 cent from YouTube revenue. It's in the circa of $500-600, but all of that will be siphoned off to a specific Australian bat conservation group. We're really proud of that. And if you watch our videos, I think it's really important that you guys know that's where it goes to. So, and we will be a non-for-profit until the day I retire. This is the long game for QAM. Once I'm in my 60s or 70s. Be retiring, and I will need to probably live off YouTube revenue. So that is how long I want to keep going. Second thing is thank you to, I got to first up thank the crew. Blake, John, Sam, Nath, Jay, anyone that we've explored with. In fact, there's some really memorable moments. There are some hairy moments that we've had underground. And probably just to give you guys a little bit of a context that for every one QAM episode that you see, there's another 2 or 3 that will never be aired, or at least not in the near vicinity. I'll need to be on my deathbed till I release some, we'll call it, we were actually referring it to as QAM 2040, which means we would air all of our gnarly stuff in the year 2040, but we don't really know. That's just a bit of an idea that we've been toying around with. But some of the mines that we go to, they're on private property. We're actually with the landowners, and they absolutely say do not share photos and video, and we're ultra respectful of that. I guess if you think of if you owned a mine, or even if you owned a mineral lease, and you had explorers come in, what good could come from airing it from YouTube or social media? Absolutely nothing. So, but none of it would be possible if it wasn't for specifically Blake, John, and Sam. We've been on some hectic adventures. Some of the things that you endure when you're underground is definitely a bit of a bonding experience. So cheers, lads. Really appreciate the friendship that we've formed over the last couple of years. And I look forward to another decade or so of hectic underground explorations. We all share the same passion. We've all got a real notion around safety and when we're pushing it too far. And things that we don't film on the page are all around the safety plans that we come up with topside, because if we dipped into that and filmed that and aired that, you could almost say that we're an educational mine exploration channel, which we don't want to dip into. So the second thing is the page is just over 2,500 subscribers. Thank you so much. This was a YouTube channel initially, which was set to private videos, which is just a way that I could show my family some of the adventures that I'd been on around the coal mine. So I don't really have any ideas of how to do this, but we're airing episode 100 after the urban exploration episode. So, and we think it's a really special episode because of the end of it. There's actually some footage of a mining museum, and really special, probably the best mining museum that we've ever been to Australia-wide. It's a little place called Brian's Shed up in the Atherton Tablelands. But to celebrate episode 100, I'm going to give away 3 things. I'm just thinking at this stage that anyone that comments, there's about a dozen of you and half a dozen that comment on almost every video. You guys know who you are. Thank you so much. But we're going to give away 3 things. I think all you need to do is just comment on the episode that's called Once Australia's Largest Tin Mine. That's going to be episode 100, and it's after our Urbex. We're going to give away this. This is crystalline quartz with a massive, almost looks like about 60 or 70% strike of tin. Now, whoever wins this, we will send the photo and the detail of the mine that this is from the bottom of. No human being has been to the bottom of this mine for over 50 odd years. We'll make sure you get that detail. I got a rail spike that I found, and this one was special because I've since found about 100 of these. But I found this out the front of Begowan number 13. Now this is a rail spike, forged iron. That would have been circa, probably just before the year 1900. But very special because that was the first one that I've ever found. I've got probably half a dozen that I've shared with family and friends since. So we're going to give away this really nice quartz specimen with a big band of cassiterite in there. Going to give away this, and obviously they're, one of a kind. But I also brew a killer chili sauce. It is famous amongst my friend and family. So if you comment on the next QAM Abandoned Mines video, we will contact you, we will send you an email, and wherever you are in the world, we will ship you those 3, we think, quite unique prizes. So the other thing that I wanted to do is really just stress, and we will get to some pretty cool content in just a second, but I guess a few people think we've been put up for this from, Queensland Parks and Wildlife or Department of Abandoned Mines or Department of Mines and Natural Resources. No, we haven't. I guess what spurred on this video is me wanting to thank any of the fellow QAM crew members. I wanted to really thank all of you that's got us to 2,500 subscribers and has earned almost $600 for Australian bat conservation. The other reason why I wanted to produce this video was that I learned of a feature on YouTube. I don't actually think it's a feature, but when you click on your bio, you can actually see how many videos we've had. And at the time of filming this, it is now the 8th of December, Friday the 8th of December. We just aired one of the Far North Queensland adventures that had the huge stope. I found out that the QAM page has now had 225,000 views. So, getting pretty close to 250,000. I really need to stress the importance of never trying to explore an abandoned mine. I look back on some of the things that I did when I was just by myself for the first 6 to 9 months of exploring through 2020 and 2021, and I'm just absolutely lucky I didn't kill myself. Entering mines with no calibrated gas meters, entering mines without even just basic, really holistic notions of just the geology and what I was walking into. Not letting people know where I was, and if you guys have seen the episode called An Important Message from QAM, I used to do really stupid things like, do Facebook reach out programs and try and find out who owned property and didn't understand res globe and freehold leases and biosecurity laws and all that sort of stuff. So I refer to the first couple of years of QAM as going a bit rogue. But I've got a little whiteboard. So what I intended to do was to actually draw you up a little bit of a sketch of abandoned mine. This is not an educational video. This is actually meant to deter people from going underground. Going underground is massively dangerous, and we are absolutely holding ourselves to account if anything happened. We live in a society where you could stub your toe and try and send off an email and recruit some lawyers and try and sue your local council. That is not us. We understand the dangers inherently, and if anything was to happen to us underground, we're not going to blame anyone because we well and truly know what we're walking into. But the same can't be said for people that follow our YouTube channel. This is just probably a 5 to 6 minute video that I'm just going to run through about some of the dangers of entering abandoned mines. The main ones are the environmental instability that you're exposed to, dangerous atmospheres, and also when you are working underground in a confined space, one of the actual most apparent dangers is what they refer to as the human element. So if something goes wrong underground and you have ground fall or you hit bad air, if you're not with someone that you know that you've worked with underground for an extended period of time, it's impossible to know how human beings are going to react. And in really gnarly situations underground, it's actually the human element that can actually exacerbate situations and make things really dangerous. So we are still rookie underground explorers. This video is not meant to be, wise owl telling you guys what to do, but we're just going to do some really basic mine geology and teach you guys about the understanding of how they, work a lode mine and the inherent dangers that come with that. We'll really quickly touch on dangerous atmospheres, the silent killer in mines, which is a lack of O2, methane, H2S gases. And just to put that into context, if you want to simulate what can go wrong in an abandoned mine, try dragging an 80 kilo bag of potatoes down your hallway whilst you are holding your breath and see how far you can get. Because that might sound like a really dramatized situation, but if you hit bad air or one of your crew members hits bad air and you're not running shop calibrated 4 gas meters, and that happens to you, that is actually the likely scenario of what's going to happen. So not only one person will go down, anyone that tries to go in before, search and rescue arrive, everyone's going to be affected by it as well. So especially if you're on ropes. Imagine if you, and this is a role that we play out all the time, imagine if you're on ropes and you hit bad air or you have some rockfall from the collar and you lose your consciousness. We simulate that in some of the action planning and the safety planning that we do, but trying to actually get a dead weight that can weigh up to 80 or 90 kilos, which some of our crew members do, back up a rope line, trying to keep everyone calm, is hectic. And if you're trying to do that for the very first time whilst you're exploring abandoned mine, there's a very good chance that the person on the rope and anyone that you send in for a rescue is not going to live another day. So just to recap, this has been a huge waffle on. I don't expect this video to get a lot of views. I really hope it does though, because I feel we've got a duty of care, and I really hope that you guys understand how appreciative we all are, and especially I am, of getting to the page to where it's at. So I'll cut over to the whiteboard. Alrighty gang, here is our whiteboard. So now I got this idea from a YouTuber. I don't know who he was, I've forgotten. He's a South African guy, and I've just pretty much stolen his ideal verbatim because he actually does some really cool diagrams which I'm going to recreate about lode mining. Obviously mine's more about the dangers of it, so I'll kick it off. So first things first, got our hill, a couple of amazing trees, and just to wind back the clock, we've got a creek, we've got some old school, old time prospectors that are traversing these creeks all over Queensland, all over Australia, all the way back to the 1850s, 1840s, looking for alluvial gold. Now once they mine the alluvial gold out, which is normally just done with pans or sluices or dredges if it's a big operation, they normally start walking the hill to look for the lode. So I'll do the lode in a different colour. There's normally parallel faults of varying quality in some hard rock mines. Now the first thing that they would always do, just making sure you can see this, once they've found the alluvial gold, they would trek up the hill They're removing all of the burden, all the foliage, that's surrounding these hills, and they'd be trying to get down to bedrock. Now, what they were hoping to see was the country rock either side with a quartz lode in between. Then what they do, they would sink a shaft on the lode. And, there are some mineral claims that we've explored where there's actually been 30 to 40 shafts sunk and no one has actually mined any ore. They would sink a shaft, they'd be looking for the variable grades as they sink the shaft. If the grade pays, normally what happens, they would form a company, they would gain public interest, they'd look at floating it, they would use that money to start funding the mine. Here's where it gets interesting though. What they would normally do is punch in a portal and drive. Now, when they're driving, if it is on the strike, it's a drive. If it is against the lode and it's to get to the deposit or the lode, they would normally call that a crosscut. Once they've reached it, they would start mining up. They would use gravity to drop the ore down. They would truck it out. We might have a little trestle happening here, or we might have a mill site down where the water supply is. Now, the reason why I've given you this drawing is twofold. It's pretty common they would sink a lower drive. They would then start mining up the lode, again repeating the process, use gravity, drop the ore down, truck it out. They might start mining this lode and they might get to within 3 to 4 meters of this drive. They might do that on purpose, the grade might drop, which means if you're a inexperienced explorer, you could be walking across this drive, you could go past like a bit of a crust, if you will, because when the mine closes, this would be boarded up. If they're running trams over it, it would be some boards and some capping and some railway lines are over the top of this. If you fast forward that 80 years, where bats have inhabited a mine and there's guano in there, you could unexpectedly be walking across here. You could have a cap that could give way and you'd fall to your doom. So that is a blind danger number one in exploring abandoned mines. All right, we'll just jump away from the main video for just a second, just give you this extra bit of footage from underground. This is in far north Queensland, so in both the extremities of Australia we don't see any bats, but imagine this mine with 60 to 70 years of bat guano. It's actually super dangerous. There's a 30-metre open stope just there. But imagine if you were walking along this drive and it was covered in even just 1 to 2 inches of bat guano, you'd have no idea what's underneath it. Now, if that was covered with bat guano when the mine floods, all that ammonia, all that nitrogen in the bat guano would rot those timbers, and look what you'd fall through. You'd fall down there to your absolute doom. And if you didn't tell anyone where you were, you'd be down there forever. The second one is the opposite of what I just mentioned earlier. When they're sinking the shaft, getting all of that public interest, getting some money, floating companies, trying to get the word out, trying to get the press involved to promote their company. There's a lot of interest, there's a lot of money, a lot of people employed. When a mine hits the end of its life, especially for all the mines that we chase because they're pre-1900s, there's not a lot of interest. There is no money. And it's normally mines inspectors or the Department of Mines which would go along and look at the remediation plans. Now, remediation plans for mines pre-1900 could literally be these two trees. I'll make the shaft a bit bigger. These two trees down the shaft to create a choke point. Now, another thing too, not to get too sidetracked, all of the historical mine shafts that we see, they keep going past bedrock, which means they'll keep collaring up and they'll create what's called an ants mound. When bushfires come through, which is pretty inevitable, especially in Queensland once every 20 or 30 years, they would normally nuke this lagging, which leaves an absolute death pit where all this mullock, which is sitting above the country rock, has the potential to fall in. And what we didn't know when we first started exploring abandoned mines is setting a rope on top of this collar is one of the most dangerous things you can do on the face of the earth. All right, so we are pretty much done climbing uncollared shafts. So I thought I'd just jump away from the main video for just a second and share with you a little bit of footage of what can happen when you set your line over collar material. It can be quite nasty.
Shit. Ah. I thought I picked the stable bit. It appears I did not. I caught one in the hand, but I'm alright. I thought the bit to my right was looser. Oh, I caught one in the leg, one in the hand. Yeah. This part's tricky. Gotta try and get over these sticks. Oh, smells down here. Yeah. Ah! Rock to the helmet. And hand. I'm alright.
Now back to our remediation plan. We've chucked down a couple of trees. We've probably got a horse or a bullock. We've got all these timbers and we're just throwing them down the shaft. Fast forward at 20 years. We've got a lot of silt that's run in. Those timbers that held the collar open are now gone, and all of the collar material has plugged our shaft. Now you might be thinking that you're going to walk on an abandoned mine site. You might want to stick your head down into what you think is a pit or a trench. This plug can give way. We will show you an example of looking up under a plug, and you could very easily fall to your death. All right, again, just jumping out of the main video for just a few seconds, just to show you. This is one of our favourite explorers. This is a copper mine that was from the early 1900s, reworked in the 1970s for about another 8 or 9 years. And definitely one of our favourite adventures. It's about a 6-hour hike to get in, so you've got to dedicate a full day just to get to this mine, and then walking back up the hill with almost a 600-metre altitude with our wet boots is absolutely painful. But check this out, that shaft up there, we actually got up topside, and all you can see is just a little depression in the ground. So the unknowing person could jump through that. A massive sheet of razor sharp quartz up there. If that fell on top of you, it would be good night. And then here's another little clip from New South Wales. This is part of our Granite Belt series that we filmed. I think it ended up being a 5 or 6 part series. You can see a big open stope further up the vein, and then what looks like a pretty innocent pile of sticks. Now, you see Blake rounding up over the collar. He was at this exact shaft only 4 to 5 years ago, and it was absolutely blowing in the wind and breathing. If you were to walk down there, you could crack the timbers that are choking the collar, like we have just mentioned in the video, and you would be down there in a heartbeat. So, a lot to understand. What could look like a really cool looking adventure of walking across a drive, walking into an adit, walking into a crosscut, could potentially spell death that you will never see coming because you don't know what is under this ground. You cannot see through a foot of guano to actually see the infrastructure that's actually supporting the earth or not supporting the earth. Then I thought what I'd talk about is atmospheres. So when you're in an abandoned mine, there is no ventilation. Sometimes they'll breathe naturally. A lot of the times they will not. There's a process that rocks go through that they oxidize, and the net effect of that can be oxygen consumption. So obviously when the miners drive in a crosscut or a drive, all of the rocks that are in there are oxidizing for the first time ever, which means just the natural process of the rocks and the oxygen exchange. So that means that just the process of driving through country rock and those rocks are oxidizing for the first time, the net effect of that can be low oxygen. Also, if you are looking at a deposit which is high in sulfur, when that sulfur mixes with oxygen, you can actually produce a H2S gas. As long as, along with when the water interacts with it, the mine can expose potential ill-experienced explorers to very acidic mine drainage. Obviously, if there's vegetation or if they've gone past a coal seam, there's the potential for methane gas. None of it you can see, none of it you can detect unless you have a shop calibrated 4-gas meter, which needs to be bump tested every 6 months to make sure that you're not exposing yourself to any dangers. So I think I'll cease, stop waffling on. I think that's been quite a long video. If you've made it this far, I do have a surprise for you, other than the Merry Christmas, other than thank you to all of our subscribers, and thank you to all of our crew members sincerely for another amazing year of QAM. If you've made it this far, even though this was meant to be a bit of a Merry Christmas and a thank you, I have an exploration from one of my, almost in my backyard, of an old coal mine that was flooded in one of the previous videos. The water level has dropped about 3 or 4 meters. And if you've made it this far, I think you've earned the right to see a bit of some QAM underground action. So if you've made it this far, thank you. Keep watching the channel. Again, it's all going to a really great cause, and there's another big update of that coming middle of February 2024. Until then, stay safe. Thanks for getting QAM to 2,500 subscribers, and we wish you all the best. Merry Christmas from Ebenezer and the QAM crew.
This is, if I had to have a guess, this is a more modern decline, because on the and just to address the confusion, I did say I was done with the coal mines, but I've been watching water bores drop in height for this one over the last 6 to 9 months, and we haven't had rain up here for a long time. But if I had to have a guess at this one, this is a more modern entrance. Well, there's some really old timbers on the outside, not too sure. Because they're on the original maps, the 1900 maps, this one was from 1908, the actual portal's about 30 metres to my south-southeast. And judging by the size of the mullock, I don't think you'll see it through the trees, but it is huge. And remember, the mullock only represents how much ground was removed until they got to the coal seam. Once they got to the coal seam, all they were mining was coal and the pillars that they left. So last time on this one, I didn't record the first little time, and the ground was literally moving full of baby snakes. So I'm by myself, but I've dropped Blake a pin. Let's get in there and check this one out. Got my gas meter on, just come back from the shop, it's just been calibrated. Let's have a squeeze. I just need to again, I don't know how this one's still open. That looks like okay country rock, but that's just absolutely shoddy sandstone. Look at that. All right, let's get in there and have a look. Of all the water bores that I've seen, they've all dropped about 4 meters. So if this one is still plugged, that's going to mean that it's not actually linking to the underground aquifers. It is indeed just choked full of rock, and it's actually just pinched shut. It's just pinched shut, and therefore the water that's in here, other than animals drinking it, is going to remain pretty consistent. You can see that's a little jump hole that they carved. That's pretty crazy. I can actually see pickaxe marks on that. Check that out. That is super weird. Don't think I've ever seen that in a coal mine. You look at that. We're possibly on a fault. That's clay. But look at that. You can actually see the movement of the earth in that. Isn't that amazing? Terrible ground. All right. Now, it was at this point is at this point that the water got to last time. I'll show you, right, just next to that boulder. And where my feet are now was all underwater. No. Right, the water's dropped a lot. So right there, that log there, the water was just in here. So the water's dropped a lot. It's still indeed flooded. Let's go down and have a look anyway, hey? I've driven all this way. Wow, look at the big timbers in there. I couldn't see any of this before. Oh no, sorry. That was the log that the water line was at. The water was just here, so the water's dropped about a good 1.5 meters. Just slowing down. Looking at the back. Wow. That actually looks like it almost levels out there. Oh wow, you can see heaps further. Holy shit. Holy shit. Oh man. What the hell? I reckon I can get across there. All right, give me a sec, guys. Do not try this at home. Abandoned mines are dangerous. Wet abandoned mines are asking for trouble. We know what we're doing. Do not try and recreate this. All right. It's about up to my knee almost. Now, where are you going to put your feet, Eb? Where are you going to put your feet, mate? All right. I'll jet the big torch. Look at that. Where are we? I'll stop, take some photos real quick. Oh, I've definitely got a feeling that these old timber caps, that goes down a way. I reckon these posts are in their original position, and I reckon I'm standing on the old collapsed back. I need 2 hands for this. This is death. This is so dangerous, guys. That was so sketch. I got to the end. Got an old bottle in here. This is bad news. This is all just clay seam. The drive would have kept going. Oh man, this is so dangerous. It's not funny. I'll just check this old bottle out. The drive would have kept going, but it's about 6 feet under my feet, and I'm standing on the collapse. This is worse than the other coal mine, number 4. Oh, made it back. That was the hardest 10 to 12 meter wade of my life. So just explain what's going on. That's the side of a set that's fallen over. Would have been up around here. You can actually see the original watermark of the mine last time I was here. But that timber set would have sat up about here, and then the decline would have just gradually gone down there. You probably can't see the timbers down there. All of that material that's down there has all fallen from here, from the backs. And that's why if you look behind me, it's a nice square drive. Look at that. And then about here is when it starts to get that sort of vaulted look to it. You can see this is original because I can still see the timber chocks in there. That would have been for either water, air, who knows, signalling wise. So yeah, about here, that's where the back collapsed, which means the whole cavity I just walked through originally was the clay band that they mined through. And again, that's why they would have put the timber props in. All right, I want to get out of here before getting bit by a snake. That was gnarly. Oh, for anyone that's a fellow mine explorer or caver, you probably don't sleep at night knowing if there's just that one extra tunnel or one extra step that you couldn't get, but we know we got this one to the end. That's what that little chamber of death is. And yes, that bottle is new,
but that would have come down in floodwater and then settled there, because that's about where the water line is. So the miners in the 1940s weren't drinking summer bitter or whatever the hell it was. All right, I'll get out of this one, guys. Guys, I'm just stopping here. This is the little jump hole. Now they are pick marks, 100%. You can see the head of the pick right there. It's really soft ground. That's the clay band they followed down. That's another clay band. It's in across all these dodgy sandstone, but then look at the ribs. So I haven't seen this before. Is this how they scaled down? When you're in a mine, you kind of want to slow down, but then you kind of don't, because when you slow down, you see all the creepy crawlies. But is this just how they've scaled the walls down, or is this a hand-dug tunnel? The timbers certainly look old. Look, it's on the ribs as well. Everywhere. Look at that. They're all like pick marks. Crazy. You can see how easily the drive. That's a little part we filmed on the way down. That is such crook ground. Look at that. That is interesting. The things you see when you slow down. Are there any miners out there that can confirm, are these indeed pick marks? Or are they too long? They're definitely pick marks in here. You can see the head. Very interesting. All right, time for some fresh air.